Hello, everyone, and good morning. Welcome back to Sports Today. So, we know for a fact that there's been a lot happening in the world of sport, and we might sometimes miss out on things that may or may not have happened whilst we were asleep. So that's what we are joining you here for this very morning to bring you a few things or a few news updates, things you may or may not have missed out on that happened in the world of sport whilst you were sleeping. So, without further ado, let's just quickly go down into it now. You remember that in the recently concluded ODI series between India and Sri Lanka, Virat Kohli was awarded the man of the series, and most people felt that it was pretty justifiable considering the fact that he had been in such good form throughout the series. However, there is one man who disagrees very slightly with the notion that Kohli was the out and out man of the series for India. It would surprise no one that that man was Gautam Gambhir. And Gautam Gambhir was, you remember that he was commentating or providing opinions and analysis for the host broadcasters. And he had an interesting take on Kohli's Man of the Match award, which he was given, Man of the Series, sorry. He said that it should have been a joint award, really, because there was one other player who he said who was on par with Virat. Now, I'll read out the exact quote, and the player who he had picked, by the way, in case you're wondering, was Mohammad Siraj. So what Kohli said, what Gambhir said was that Kohli was good, but for me, I think Mohammad Siraj, the way he was playing, he was on par with Virat Kohli. There should have been a joint man of the series because he was exceptional, and these were beautiful batting wickets. I know we are always tempted towards batters getting big hundreds, but I think Siraj was absolutely exceptional too in this entire series. Now, obviously, Gambhir's opinion on these things sometimes can come under a bit of a scanner, but to be fair, he's not entirely wrong in the sense that these were really good batting wickets, and Siraj was bowling like an absolute champion throughout the series. In fact, on a very good batting wicket, he was actually, this close to getting a fifer. So, interesting thought. What do you guys think? Well, you can let us know in the comments if you disagree or agree with what Gambhir said about Kohli and a joint Man of the Series award for this particular series. Now, one player who also impressed a lot during the Sri Lanka series, in the ODIs rather, was Kuldeep Yadav, and most fans are very frustrated at the fact that Kuldeep doesn't ever seem to get a consistent run of things when it comes to being a part of the Indian team, whether it be the test side or the white ball side. He does tend to get frustrated a lot, and you'd be happy to know that you're not the only ones who feel that way, because Robin Uthappa has come out in public and said the exact same thing. In an interview with a news agency, he said that, look, Kuldeep was, the player of the match in the first test against Bangladesh, and then he was out of the team for the next match. It doesn't give a good message. Yes, you can explain things to Kuldeep once, but this gives a wrong message to young players that even after getting a Player of the Match trophy, your place in the team is not assured. Now, this is something that, to be fair, a lot of us have been saying, and in fact, a lot of people believe the same for even someone like an Ishan Kishan, who's had to sit out despite the fact that in Bangladesh he ended up getting a double ton, but his place seems anything but assured at this point. So, who really knows what the team management is thinking here? In fact, speaking of interesting calls that were being made by the team management recently, Sarfaraz Khan, who you remember has been in flying form for Mumbai for quite a while in domestic cricket, actually spoke out on how it is that he felt over his exclusion from the recent Test squad that was announced for the Australia series. Now, in an interview with a news publication, The Times of India, he said that, look, during the Ranji Trophy final at Bangalore, when I scored a ton, I met the selectors and I was told that you'll get your opportunity in Bangladesh. Be ready for that. But of course, that didn't happen. Recently, I met Chetan Sharma, sir, who's of course the chief selector, while we were checking in at the hotel in Mumbai. He told me not to feel disheartened and that my time will come. Good things take time to happen. You're very close to an India berth. You'll get your chance. So when I played another important knock, I had expectations, but it's all right. Later on in that same interview, Sarfaraz would admit that he was really disappointed at having missed out on the squad yet again, and it really bothered him because, truth be told, he doesn't really know what it is that he's supposed to do to be getting that all-important breakthrough and that all-important maiden call-up for India, and in the test team, because according to him, and his numbers really would back him up, he's been performing really, really well in, of course, the test side of things. So whether or not that call-up happens soon is something that remains to be seen, but his form does make him very, very hard to ignore at this point in time. Switching our focus from the world of cricket to the world of football, you guys would remember that Chelsea recently sealed the signing of Mikhailo Mudryk from Ukrainian club Shaktar Donetsk for a fee of 70 million euros and 30 million euros of add-ons. Now, Shakhtar have taken the rather noble step of donating actually a chunk of money from that transfer fee, from the 70 million that Chelsea paid up front, to the Ukrainian soldiers. Now, of course, you remember that there's currently a war happening in Ukraine with the Russians having invaded the country, and the Ukrainian club Shakhtar Donetsk have donated about 20.5 million euros to the families of soldiers, and of course to the soldiers themselves, because the owner of Shakhtar Donetsk is a Ukrainian billionaire, and he said that, look, we may not be able to play our football in Ukraine right now, but without the soldiers, we wouldn't even have our homeland, and football would not even be happening. So we have to be grateful to them. He's donated a good 20.5 million euros to the Ukrainian soldiers and their families. Very, very noble thing. Hopefully, this is something that can provide these people some assistance in what is a very trying time for them. Continuing on the football vein, you remember that Liverpool were consigned to a very heavy defeat courtesy of Brighton and Hove Albion, and now manager Jurgen Klopp has hinted that an overhaul will most likely be coming in the summer. So he said, he talks about how the squad seems to have stagnated a bit. He's hinted at it, he hasn't said it very clearly, but if you read what it is that he's had to say, I'll read out the quote for you. He said that when I left Dortmund, talking about when he left Borussia Dortmund, I said something has to change here. It was a different situation there, but in a way it's similar to what it is at Liverpool. Either I go, the manager position changes, or a lot of other things change. As far as I know, from what I hear, I will not go. So that means maybe there's a point where we have to change other stuff, and we will see that. But it's something for the future, like in the summer, but not now. Though the only thing that they can really change in that short notice would, of course, be players. So that does quite clearly hint at a big transfer overhaul coming Liverpool's way this summer. Hopefully, it's something that will, of course, if you're a Liverpool fan thinking, transform them from becoming a team that are currently 8th in the table to maybe being back to at least competing for a top 4 finish. Switching our focus now from football news to tennis news. Russian flags have now been banned from the Australian Open. Previously what had happened was that Russian players, for a fact, are allowed to play on the ATP and WTA tour, but they have to be playing under neutral flags. And because there are Ukrainian players on tour, and obviously seeing a Russian flag right now would be something that would be pretty irritating, to put it politely, the Australian Open had taken the decision that we won't ban flags, but you're not allowed to display them in public. So I don't understand how that would work, because if you could take a flag into the courts, you would be able to at least unfurl it. But after a flag was unfurled during a match which featured a Ukrainian player, the Australian Open have said, no, we're banning these flags entirely. There's not going to be a flag that will be displayed, or that is of a Russian. You won't be displaying Russian flags during this particular Grand Slam. That decision has been taken, and we're ending the news update with one thing which I think a lot of Indian fans will be very excited about. The Indian Open badminton tournament, which is of course now a Super 750 tournament, will be getting underway in New Delhi today itself. So you'd have a lot of Indian fans, Indian players, of course, who are going to be taking part in this tournament, and it's going to be a top tier tournament, because being promoted to Super 750 means that more and more bigger players will in fact be turning up on India shows to play in this tournament, and obviously it's a massive boost for India as well. And the best part is there will be quite a few Indian players who will be part of the draw. So you'd have PV Sindhu would of course be leading the charge. You have defending men's singles champion Lakshya Sen. HS Prannoy will be there as well. In fact, Prannoy will be taking on Lakshya Sen in the first round. And you're also going to be seeing the champion doubles duo of Satvik Sairaj, Rakhi Reddy and Chirag Shetty in action. Hopefully by the end of the Indian Open, you'd have a few Indian winners, a few more Indian winners than what you had last year as well. Don't forget, Lakshya Sen had won it this last year. Hopefully he can do the same this year, or at least someone like Sindhu, we remember only made her comeback last week in Malaysia, would be hoping for a better showing this time around, because she's come back off a very long injury layoff. But either which way, it'll be much easier for her and of course the other Indian players, because they'll be doing, hoping to put their best foot forward in front of a home crowd that will definitely be very, very partisan and cheering for them very loudly. And that's it for this particular edition of the morning news update for today's date, which is of course 17 January. Thank you guys very much for joining us. As always, if you enjoy our work, don't forget, like, share, subscribe, leave us a comment, tap the bell icon. Also follow us on Twitter, Instagram and Facebook. And last but not least, don't forget to download the SportsTech app. Thank you all once again for joining us. I hope to see you with us as we keep bringing you more updates from the world of sport through the day. But for now, goodbye.